Trapped in the closet, closet, closet. Hey, YouTube, door killing anime coming at you with another video, and just how I said, I'm trapped in the closet, 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 on my R. Kelly stuff, but yeah, I'm trapped in the closet. I'm doing a video from the closet. I want to be quiet for now because we have people nearby in the room, and I have enough space in the closet and the right angle to be able to produce my video. So here it is. Door Killing Anime coming at you with another video, and I'm having a character profile video, and this character profile will be on my man, Ichigo Kurosaki. Kurosaki-kun! Ichigo Kurosaki. Ichigo. Ichigo Kurosaki from the series of Bleach. This series, as we all know, is a part of the Big Three, and Ichigo Kurosaki is a well-known main male protagonist. And basically, I'll be discussing Ichigo Kurosaki like this. I'll be analyzing the character from a characterization standpoint, character development, character progression, and how the character has drove the story and is effective in being a protagonist inside of the story. Now, I know some things may be vague and some things may be self-evident, but as I talk, I'll be able to define and be able to give an effective analysis of an effective profile of an effective characterization of Ichigo Kurosaki from the series of Bleach. Alright, now currently as I'm making this video, Bleach is on its 529th chapter, and this is the chapter where Ichigo is just learning about his origins from the past. Now, I'm doing this video beforehand, so there is a very strong chance, in my opinion, that my opinion can change due to what happens in this arc and how Kubo tends to take his final arc into the Soul Society's invasion from the Quincy's, and how Ichigo Kurosaki will progress as a character. But this is what I've seen from this series so far. So basically, as we've seen from all the arcs, all the episodes, all the chapters from Ichigo Kurosaki, I think that he is a very logical character in aspects of humanistic, but he's not a very supportive character when it comes to progression and characterization. Now, when I say these things, I'll start from the ground up. At the beginning of the series, Ichigo Kurosaki, as we see, is a spiritually aware human being, meaning that he is aware that ghosts, hollows, or different types of supernatural figures exist. We see this in the first chapter / first episode of Bleach, where you can see Rukia, a soul reaper, and where he identifies with a soul that has a hole in their chest with a chain. That means they're almost about to become a hollow. I forgot the exact name that they're called. By the end of the first couple of chapters / the first episode of Bleach, we get to see Ichigo inherit the powers of the Soul Reaper that he saw earlier, and her name was Rukia Kuchiki, and this is where the story kind of kicks off, because it introduces the concepts of the Soul Reaper towards Ichigo Kurosaki, and how Ichigo Kurosaki has to fulfill the role of a substitute Soul Reaper until Rukia can get her powers back. Okay, and through the time that we say that Ichigo is a substandard substitute Soul Reaper, and before he meets up with Soul Society prospectives Byakuya Kuchiki and Renji Abarai, Ichigo has to fill the role as substitute Soul Reaper, and he does it pretty well. And for his adjustment period, it's okay. But as we see Ichigo's backstory, we see his backstory from being a single parent home most of his life, where he has to suffer from the trauma of losing his mother. He's pretty much used to be, or still is, a punk kid who always gets into fights with other kids after school, and he always has to struggle with this internal, struggle and internal turmoil between growing up and being able to face his responsibilities of coming to terms with his mother's death, and coming to terms for the fact that he has to grow as a person. Like, I'd say before, this is a coming-of-age story specifically with Ichigo Kurosaki, and it's very important, for this to be introduced to happen, because it gives the character complexity, dexterity, in fact of he has to grow from his experiences in the past, and I like how they set it up in the story. So Ichigo's characterization was good, and the setup for his characterization was good because it allowed for growth to progress. Now, I'm about to see if this growth actually came in progress. As we go into the Soul Society invasion arc, and even a little bit before that, Ichigo has to learn more things about being a Soul Reaper. And as he learns about more things about being a Soul Reaper, training with Kisuke Urahara and facing these battles with Ikkaku and Renji and Byakuya and Kenpachi, you get to see the psychological slash physical progression with Ichigo Kurosaki, and that's what I like first and foremost. You see it with Ikkaku, where we could see more of a physical development and how he takes over his fights. But if you go further back, where he faced Urahara, he had to go with identifying a sword, learning what it meant to be a Soul Reaper, and gaining meaning of what he was doing. Vice prior to that, he was just fulfilling the role of a Soul Reaper. And as you fast forward to his fight with Renji, he learned more from Kisuke Urahara how to use resolve, and how his resolve to do things would increase his chances of making his mission successful. And I think that was more of a psychological than physical thing, because it allowed Ichigo to be able to have a certain mindset to say that this is a goal that I want to do, and there's no turning back from that. And I think that's the first time that we got to see Ichigo's first progression as a character. Even though he may have had it, or he may have had that resolve in the past, it was great to clarify on that when it came to facing a challenge. Because the first time that Renji and Ichigo fought, he got absolutely demolished, and to see him come back psychologically and physically was just perfect for progression of character. And when you saw that furthermore with Zaraki Kenpachi, and how he had to identify with his Zanpakuto and utilize the power of his Zanpakuto and fight with it, except with just using it, then I think that progressed Ichigo Kurosaki more to be able to use his powers and learn more about his powers, and to learn more about himself, eventually gaining these responsibilities as trying to protect others, as he is a very protective character, and he wants to be very protective of his friends and his family. Now, go over to Byakuya, you can see that evolution again with the Bankai. That's physical progression. He's managed to train up until that point and gain the resolve, and he gotten the reward for that. That's nice. And most of this is in the Soul Society arc, and sadly most of this progression is in the Soul Society arc. But I'll go back to my statement earlier when I talked about progression, okay, and realism. I said realism, not progression. I said realism. And the realism is in that Ichigo Kurosaki is a 15-year-old kid, and he's going on from junior high to high school, and he has the typical acts as a junior slash high school individual. When we see further on in this series, when we get into the Arankar arc, and how the Espada are coming in, and later on to the betrayal of Sosuke Aizen, and how Sosuke's plans are coming up and affecting the Soul Society and Karakura Town, especially with Ichigo Kurosaki being the guard of Karakura Town, the substitute Soul Reaper of Karakura Town at the time, then you get to see Ichigo go through periods of sadness, depression, and we also get to see Ichigo Kurosaki go through periods of outgoingness, upbringingness, willingness to protect others, willingness to protect them, willingness to uplift them, willingness to encourage them, as he had back where he wanted to save Orihime from Hueco Mundo and from the clutches of Ukiura, and moreover Sosuke Aizen. But there are periods where he falls down because he has to suffer internally from his lack of progressing his power and saving his friends, and that is much more clarified with the variable of him having to deal with this hollow-like powers that somehow he developed over time, and also with the instability of his powers, because his battle with Ukiura and his battle with Green Jows have made him unsure of whether he has the ability to defeat these guys and to protect his friends, and whether he was useful enough to do these type of things. And they were very realistic, and a lot of people like to say that he goes through this period of bitch, then hero, then bitch, but he keeps being in the same instance. And even though sometimes that is in the same instance, and there's no excuse for that at the slightest, it is realism towards his age and his character design at the time, because he does not have a clearly defined persistent goal towards. He has a generic goal that he wants to do because he has the ability to execute that goal, but there is no keen, unique, personal goal that sets him off as a protagonist, and why we should be fully invested into Ichigo Kurosaki inside of the series. And when I mean this, it doesn't mean protecting your friends. I would prefer something, but this hasn't happened. I would prefer if Ichigo Kurosaki would have gave the element of, I know I'm a Soul Reaper and these responsibilities were thrusted upon me, but I'll try to be a Soul Reaper for myself. I very much idolize being a Soul Reaper, and I love what they do. and I'm just a substitute. But I want to get into the Soul Society and break my way in and be the best that I can be in there. Even a small goal is that. But if you're doing this solely to protect your friends, then that's an iffy statement, because the purpose of being a Soul Reaper is fighting against Hollows. For a spiritually aware place like Karakura Town has been ever since the beginning of this series, and it has been clarified that it has been over the years, because it's the location of where the King's Gate dimension is. Then Ichigo, man, yeah, I see I'm on a roll and then I forget this shit. Like, oh my god, get it out your head, get out your head, get out your head. Okay, I'm saying that with Kurosaki's development and how it's supposed to affect his world, he would have had the goal of going into the Gotei 13, but now into 529 chapters, he has a lack wherewithal goal, a realistic point of view towards character and character progression and characterization. But the development after a certain period of time is lackluster, and the purpose for the character is lackluster. Now, as Ichigo drives the story, it seems like all of these things are put in place just so Ichigo can overarch these things. When I say that, I mean Sosuke Aizen, for example. Sosuke Aizen has had effects upon the Soul Society and the world of the living ever since before Kurosaki Ichigo was born and after that. And even though he's been noted to calculate that, you know the meme, it's all in Aizen's plan. He's calculated for such things that we wouldn't even predict over time, we wouldn't even worry about. He says he knew about Ichigo Kurosaki before he was born. The thing about that is, with such an intellectual figure coming in, and with Ichigo Kurosaki having to face this type of antagonist up to the point to where the story initially left off, there's no development to where he had to be able to defeat him. What happened was, he went into the same slump of depression, then highness, then depression, then highness, then back, when his father, Kisei Urahara and Yoruichi were being defeated in the fake Karakura Town, and as Gin and Aizen went inside the Gargantua and went to the real Karakura Town, Ichigo went through this period of depression and misfortune and misguidance based on his lack of ability to comprehend his powers and comprehend his abilities and to protect others. And as he went through that period, he really didn't learn anything. All he got was a big final Getsuga Tensho power-up, and his progression after that, as we can see in the Fullbring arc, and going into this final War Quincy arc, doesn't effectively show how Ichigo has learned from these instances. And looking back on his ability to gain the final Getsuga Tensho, I'm not sure how he deserved to get the final Getsuga Tensho, because it was Zangetsu was the one who wanted to protect Ichigo, but it doesn't appear that it doesn't appear that Ichigo Kurosaki wants to take the effort to protect Zangetsu or care for Zangetsu, because he has to keep going through this lesson of learning his roots and learning what it means to be a Soul Reaper and learning what it means to connect with his Zanpakuto. And this is evident when he has to go with Renji and travel to the third stage of Squad Zero in the Royal Palace, the third dimension with, well, it's not a third dimension anymore. It's just above the Soul Society because plot holes. But enough of that. When he goes and he meets the third Zero Squad captain, Oetsu, and he fails his test because he cannot connect with his Zanpakuto. So the progression and his drive towards the series and his characterization, they're very iffy. No. His characterization, his initial character development, inside of the Soul Society arc, and let's say his design were good, but his development and how he drives the story and his purpose is not all that good. And that's what I'm saying about the character of Ichigo Kurosaki. And those are the good things and those are the bad things. Overall, I think Ichigo Kurosaki is an average character, one that we cannot get too invested in, but one who we can see at certain instances inside the series and want to cheer for and want to see what happens when he's put in certain situations. Alright, just for a physical side, it's cool that he has, the backstory of Quincy's and Fullbring and Soul Reapers and Hollows and Visors and all that cool stuff. But overall, if he's not effective in changing over time and getting the reader emotionally invested to what Ichigo's going to do for certain things besides his powers, then his character overall will look bland and he will look two-dimensional, trying to be three-dimensional, because that's what he is to me. Now, I give this character a C. That's my lookout on Ichigo Kurosaki. Give your opinions on Ichigo Kurosaki in the comments section, or you can put, most importantly, a video response clarifying what I said in this video, and then clarify your own points into the topics that I put in this video. And you can expound upon this too. You don't have to isolate yourself to what I say in the video. There's been Dual Killing Anime. Like or dislike this video does not matter as long as you get my name out there. Dude, again, Ichigo Kurosaki, nice character, but not nice enough. All the quality content with none of the filler. And if you don't know what that is, then you need to watch more anime. Alright, guys. Peace. Man. Ichigo gets ya. That's